Hello, this is Truman, and here's another great verse for today. It's Romans 8:28, and we know that all things work together for the good, to those who love God and to those who are the called according to God's purpose. I want to focus on that last phrase, the called according to God's purpose. Not us just doing our own thing, but doing God's will and purpose. My friend and I, Brad, we drove from Georgia up to see the Noah's Ark. We arrived 9 o'clock at night. We'd been through rain and cold weather. When we pulled into the hotel, it looked like my car was broken down. The engine was just steaming, the radiator steam coming out. And so we thought, well, we've got a problem. I prayed about it that night, and I felt a little sorry for myself. But I reminded myself of Romans 8:28. Well, the next day I began to call around. One Chevy dealership said, I cannot look at your car for a whole week. And then another dealership said, it'll be 2 days before we can look at your car. Well, again, we just gave it to God. We got a tow truck, and I said, Lord, the people you put in my life in this cycle, this interruption, I'm going to try to share Jesus with. So the tow truck driver from the hotel to the Chevy dealership, I entered a conversation, found out he was married, he was Catholic, he had 3 children, and I shared the difference between works and salvation by grace through faith. Then I met the service manager, gave him a gospel tract, left my car with him. He said, we can't look at it till tomorrow. They gave us a courtesy car with a driver who took me back to the hotel. This man seemed to be the divine appointment. As we got close to the interstate, he pointed out, he said, right there, I was in an accident last week. This car ran into me on my motorcycle. I normally work in the service department, but my back is hurting, so they have me driving the courtesy car. I thought, this is no accident. This is God working all things according to his purpose. So I began to share Jesus with him. Now, he was open. He was willing to receive the gospel. He knew that God was reaching out to him. He dropped us off at the hotel. I gave him my website, and I said, watch these salvation videos. And then we had a courtesy driver from the hotel take us to the airport to get a rental car. This time, Brad and I began to share Jesus with this driver. He was a man who had been married 3 times, given up on marriage. And I began to share with him the woman at the well who had been married 5 times. We prayed with him, another gospel witness, and I believe it was a seed sown that will make an impact. We went on to Creation Museum in the rental car. That night we had a message that my car was ready to be picked up the next day. The next day, we took the rental car to the dealership, and there, the one that drives out my car is the same man who took me to the hotel in the courtesy car. And I say to him, did you watch the video? He said, yes, I did. I said, you know, this was a divine appointment. He said, I know. We're praying for his salvation. And then Brett and I took the rental car back to the hotel, and we went on to Noah's Ark and had a great time. Romans 8:28. For we know that all things work together for the good to those who love God. Notice, to those who are the called according to God's purpose. Sometimes when we see what we think are accidents, interruptions, disappointments, it's because God says, you're on my timetable. You're here for my purpose. I want you to share Jesus in what seems to be an interruption, a divine interruption, because there's a woman at the well. There's a man who nearly faced death who wants to hear about Jesus. God bless you, my friends.